2, 1. All right. Hello and welcome. Hello and welcome. Thank you for being here. Welcome to another episode of the Empowered Immigrant Live. My name's Otis Landerholm. I'm the founding attorney here at Landerholm Immigration, A.P.C, where we fight for your American dream. I'm really happy to be here with each of you today. It's a beautiful day outside here in the Bay Area. It's the 7th of August of 2025 is the day that I am filming this. And today I want to talk about how to expertly handle immigration court today. Okay? So that's my theme, how to expertly handle immigration court today. And so welcome. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate each of you. And as always, the Empowered Immigrant Live is here to train, teach, inspire, and empower immigrants to make the most out of immigration laws and to make the most out of their lives. And I believe immigrants are awesome. I believe immigrants are an enormous contribution to our society, to our world, and I'm here to fight for immigrants. And so thank you for being here. Really appreciate each of you. Again, our theme today is how to expertly handle immigration court today. And my question that I always ask is, hey, do you want to apply for a green card? Do you want to apply for asylum? Do you want to apply for a U visa or VAWA or some legal way, method, strategy to improve your life through the immigration process? Because if so, go for it, and I'd love to help you with it. My firm is on a mission to win 10,000 cases in the next 10 years. We would love for your case to be one of them. All right? And so thanks everyone for being here. As I talk about what's happening in immigration court, please feel free to send me your questions, and we'll do our best, right? I'll do my best to answer as many as I can. I do have a hard stop at 11 a.m., so that's in 25 minutes. And so we'll get moving, right? It's the 7th of August. There has been so many changes happening this year. All right, the Lake and Riley Act was signed into law in January, which makes changes in immigration court. ICE is starting with its mass deportation efforts, arresting more people, detaining more people. That's creating changes in immigration court. The Senate and the House have approved and passed the One Big Beautiful Bill, which increases fees and increases the amount of money that's given to the Trump administration to detain and deport and put more people into deportation proceedings, right? That's causing changes in immigration court. TPS has been canceled. People are being arrested and deported under the Alien Enemies Act. All of that has caused changes in immigration court, right? The Trump administration has fired some judges, which has caused changes in immigration court. So it's like, what does all this mean, and how do we do that, and how do we navigate an immigration court case as more and more people are being put into immigration court? And so that's what we're here to talk about today. All right, that's exactly what we're here to talk about. And so welcome and thank you so much for being here. With all these changes, what it boils down to is a lot more people are being sent to immigration court, which means that there will be a lot more delays, right? Some of those people are detained, and they're going to be detained longer and longer, waiting for their court date. All right? And so how do we expertly manage this as we manage our docket, as we manage our one client at a time, one case at a time? And what you got to know is when you receive a notice to appear, all right, you don't want to panic, but you do want to lawyer up. All right, start calling attorneys. Meet with 2, 3, 4. Find an attorney who's good, who you trust, who knows the law, and who can help you strategize. That is step one. All right, that's step one. But then step two, it's like the questions that my office is getting every day. It's like, okay, lawyer, how can I handle it so that I don't get detained at my hearing? How can I handle it so that I don't get detained at my hearing? Here's my answer, and this is what my firm is doing right now. Okay? When we get a new case in immigration court, first thing we do is we ask the court to allow us all, including our client, to appear via WebEx to the hearing. It's like Zoom. All right? It's the court's online system. We ask the judge that we don't have to go in person to protect our clients so that the chances of them getting detained at the hearing drop dramatically. Okay? Now, some judges will agree to this, and some judges will not agree to this. But this is a strategy that my office is doing to protect our clients. It's part of our job. All right? So then the next question that we get, hey, lawyer, what do we do if I'm not ready by the date that they're giving me? You know, sometimes we had a case, I was on the phone just yesterday with a potential client whose hearing has been set for September, and it's August right now, right? So it's coming right up. It's moving fast, moving faster than it used to. You know, back in the day, courts are so backlogged that people will get a notice to appear, and on it would be written a date. Their first preliminary hearing is 2 years in the future. All right? That's not happening anymore. All right? People are getting a date, you know, next month, in the next couple months. And so, lawyer, what if I'm not ready by the date they've given me? Okay, you and your attorney, or you through your attorney, can file what we call a motion to continue. All right, a motion for a continuance. All right, and that motion to continue allows us more time, and we can ask for more time. You don't want to abuse that, because judges couldn't deny that motion. All right, but that is a tool in our toolbox that we can use to help buy you more time so that you can prepare your case, and so that working together we can prepare everything that we need to prepare to maximize your chances of success. Okay? What other questions are coming up right now, right? Oh, what if I have a DUI from a long time ago? What if I have a criminal record from a long time ago? What if my case isn't very strong? What if what if I don't qualify for anything? Okay? Each of these questions has a different answer depending on the precise facts in your situation. It depends on when you arrived to the United States. It depends on, are you married? Do you have children? How long have you been in the U.S., right? It depends on what type of case might you be filing. Are you afraid for your life to return to your home country, right? Have you ever been the subject of serious violence in your home country that you might submit an application for asylum or withholding of removal or relief under what's called the Convention Against Torture? Or do you have a child who's a U.S. citizen who depends on you and who would suffer an extreme, an exceptional, or extremely unusual hardship if you were deported, right? That gives you potentially another argument that you could file, right? Or have you ever been the victim of any type of harm or abuse or crime or attack or assault or something here in the U.S., and did you cooperate with law enforcement in the investigation or the prosecution of that instance? Those are the types of questions that we would talk through in a consultation, along with many others, to determine what would the best strategy be for you in, if you're detained or if you're put into immigration court. Okay? And a big question is, hey, if I'm detained, can I get a bond to be released from detention? In one of our recent live sessions, we talked about who's eligible for bond, and we talked about this new ICE policy where they're saying that nobody who entered undocumented, nobody who entered without inspection is eligible for bond. I disagree with that. All right? I disagree with that. I think that that policy is incorrect. And you can argue that that policy is incorrect. And to make that argument, will require work. To make that argument is not easy. And it might lose. And so you got to understand, if somebody's detained, you can fight for a bond hearing, depending on your situation. And many of our clients, well, if you entered with a visa, if you entered with a green card, then, you will make those, you're not subject to that new policy change. But, and so all of these things, it's like there's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of every situation, every person's life, and every person's personal history, and when you arrived to the country, and and how your immigration case has progressed over the years, etc., or how your immigration status has progressed over the years, might be very different for people. All right? The Republicans like to say, oh, they're all illegals. They use that word. They love that word, right? And it's like, well, what are they talking about there? Are they talking about people who were illegal as they crossed the border, irrespective of whether or not they legally applied for some benefit, parole in place, adjustment of status, asylum? Are they talking about people who entered legally, but then the government's alleging that there was some kind of violation or problem with their visa or their parole, etc.? What about people with TPS? They're legally here right now on temporary protected status, but they crossed the border without permission potentially, right? Are those folks... Anyway, it's like everybody's situation is different and unique. And to just label people as quote-unquote illegals, it's false. Right? It's like a false category. Not to mention the stigma and the kind of non-starter that comes with that kind of label, where it's like, don't label people. You know what I mean? Plus, like, no human being is quote-unquote illegal. Right? Human beings are human beings, right? We're human beings, right? We have human rights. And we ought to be granted the right to due process and the right to be heard and the right to fight our case in court. That's what this whole system is designed for. And it's being eroded and being taken away one piece at a time by our current president and by the Republican Party and by everybody that is right now against immigrants for whatever reason, even though we live in a country of immigrants. You're hearing my opinion, all right? And it is my opinion. So that's what I wanted to share today. Bottom line is, if you receive a notice to appear in immigration court, you want to get an attorney, all right? You want to get an attorney who is good, who knows their stuff, who understands the way, like how to navigate complicated litigation. That's what this is. So that you maximize your chances of winning your case. All right? And that's what I want for each of you. And thank you very much for being here. So let me stop talking so much and let me get into your questions here. So Joe, I see your question here. You say, hello, quick question. I'm from a minority religion group who has been having a really hard time going back in your home country. Can I win asylum despite a 204C finding in my record? I appreciate it. All right, 204C is a finding of what we call marriage fraud. All right. And so Joe, first of all, thank you very much for asking this question. You are not alone in your situation. All right. So there's a lot of things to discuss. When you're afraid for your life to return to your country due to your religious beliefs, yes, you have the right to seek asylum. All right. To win asylum, you have to show you have a well-founded fear of persecution on account of one of five things: your race, your religion, right? In your situation, your nationality, your political opinion, or your quote-unquote membership in a particular social group. So, Joe, because you have a religious-based persecution argument, yes, you can apply for asylum. All right? It's tricky, though. Asylum is a quote-unquote discretionary application. So if a person has a 204C fraud finding, and if you really did commit marriage fraud, meaning you married somebody for the sole purpose of fixing your immigration papers, that's frowned upon by U.S. immigration law. And so because it's frowned upon by immigration law, the judge very well could have that be a factor that would go against a finding in favor of your asylum case. All right? And so you might still be eligible for what we call withholding of removal, or potentially relief under the United Nations Convention Against Torture, depending on your country and depending on how much evidence there is that someone in your situation would be tortured in your home country or killed, either by the government or by a group that the government acquiesces to. We're going to talk about Convention Against Torture cases in the future. But anyway, bottom line is, yes, you can apply for asylum. The other thing you can do is you can challenge the 204C fraud finding if it's raised as a contrary factor. You know, you could have a letter from your ex-spouse that supports you that says, hey, you know something, they said it was 204C, but actually, you know, it wasn't a great marriage maybe. It wasn't the greatest of relationships. Maybe we rushed into our relationship. But that's true with all kinds of people, right? That doesn't mean it was quote-unquote marriage fraud. And there's all kinds of incorrect, I'll say, 204C findings out there. There's all kinds of incorrect marriage fraud findings out there. And so that's another way to kind of push back in your favor, Joe. And I hope that's useful and helpful. My next question here is from Sam. Sam, you say, my stepson and I did an I-130, I-485 interview. It's been more than 130 days. Is this normal? Yeah, you know, it's becoming increasingly normal. Okay, I see that Perfect 115 asked this question also. Me and my stepson did an I-130, I-485 interview. It's been more than 130 days. So yeah, it's increasingly normal. There are cases where we do an I-130, I-485, have our interview, and we get a green card in 2 weeks. Okay, so that happens. All right, but there's also cases where it goes into a black hole and it's pending for years. Right? I have a case right now where I think they were interviewed in 2020, and it's now 2025, folks, and there's still no decision. And so, but that's a very uncommon situation, and we're fighting all kinds of waivers, and we expected it to take a long time because there's complexities. So, Sam, my answer to you is, if you really want to get a second opinion, or if you really want to get to the bottom of it, let's request the records, let's request the FOIAs, let's really look into what we can do to turn that around. Okay? Folks, it's 10:52. I have 8 minutes. All right? And I got to wrap up. And so let me take a couple more questions. Let's see. Yasmin, I see your question here. I got an interview for adjustment of status, but I haven't received my work visa. Is this good in 1 month? Okay. I mean, it sounds, I have no reason to, reason to make an opinion about that. All right? I have no reason to make an opinion about that. You should talk to your lawyer about it as to whether it's good or bad. All right? If they're processing your case super fast, that can be great. right? You could get a green card before your work permit gets processed, right? And so that's great. On the flip side, it's like if there are risks or red flags in your case, then you want to be mindful. You want to be cautious. Talk that through with your lawyer. All right, that's my best answer. All right, Daniel, you say, hi, do you think it's safe to apply for a T visa with a deportation order? That's a great question. Thank you for asking that question. I've done it. I've applied for T visas with deportation orders. In my office, when we apply for T visas, we don't put your current residence and things of that nature on the T visa as a way to try to protect you. But there are other things you could do, Danielle. You might consider a motion to reopen that deportation order, right? You might consider applying for a T visa at the same time that you file a motion to reopen so that you protect yourself. If your case gets reopened, then now you don't have a deportation order against you. Okay? So there's tricks, strategies that you might look into in more depth. But if a motion to reopen is not going to work for you, and if a T visa is your only shot or your best argument, then go for it. A T visa can waive a deportation order, right? It does have that power. And so yeah, if you have a case for a T visa, heck, go for it, right? What's the line from Good Will Hunting? Right? If you're familiar with that movie, it's like the line from that movie is you're sitting on a winning lottery ticket, but you're too afraid, I won't say the actual term he uses, you're too afraid to cash that lottery ticket in. Well, in some regards, if you're eligible for a T visa, think about the millions of people that wish they could be eligible for some kind of visa. Now, T visas, and U visas and asylees, it's like you're applying based on things that are horrible that happened in the past. All right? It's horrible what happened in the past. But the question is, do you want to use what happened in the past to improve your life? That's the question. And so that is the lottery ticket you're sitting on. You could improve your life. You could get a visa. All right? Millions of people can't. And you could. Potentially. And I don't know the facts about your situation. But, seek out immigration advice and really look at it. Because, man, it's golden if you could fix a deportation order and get a visa, potentially get a pathway to a green card and citizenship that comes through the T visa. It's really worth talking through. Those are my 2 cents there. Gabriela Cruz, I see your question. Can someone who was detained for asylum and didn't depart the U.S. but was granted TPS apply for AOS? Not necessarily, but sometimes. All right, there's no one-size-fits-all answer to that question, Gabriela. Thank you for asking it. They would need to do a consult. They would probably need to request all of their FOIAs first, and they would need to really think it through whether or not they can apply for adjustment of status. Okay. Daniel, I see your question. I'm a doctor in Mexico. I own a marketing agency. How hard would it be to get a TN visa? Okay, I can't answer that question. Sorry, I don't do TN visas, but thank you for asking it. Path divergence. Is it considered misrepresentation if only a subset of the arrest report is provided? Is it considered misrepresentation of only a subset? No, as long as you were honest about the arrest that happened. Right? As long as you are honest about the arrest or whatever, you might not have to have submitted an entire report. You want to pay attention. I would address that question with your attorney. Okay? Isaís, ¿qué tan seguro es viajar con advanced parole ahora? Buena pregunta. All right? Buena pregunta. How safe is it to travel on advanced parole right now? We've done it. I have clients who have traveled even under the Trump administration on advanced parole and have re-entered the U.S. without problem, without issue, and it is less sure and safe now than it has been in the past, right? And so for you and for your situation, have you ever been arrested? Any issues at all with your immigration process? How long are you going to be away? What's the purpose of the trip? How did you get your advance parole, etc.? All of those things are things worth talking through with your lawyer in a consultation to give you good advice. Should you travel? Should you not? Okay. M22839. Hi, I was arrested in the U.S. The case was dismissed. No sentence, no fine. My renewal was refused. What renewal? You're talking a visa was refused? That's very common. Okay. If it's a tourist visa or something like that, that was refused, there's not going to be much to do about it. 214B denials of visas outside the country. Yeah, I'm sorry that you're in that situation, but that's very, very common. Not a whole lot can be done there. And you might be eligible for something else. Feel free to reach out. Feel free to have a consultation, right? And so, Daniel, I see your question there. Just to follow up, TN visas, employment-based immigration is not what my firm does, right? My firm fights for the rights of immigrants who are facing deportation. All right, and so if you're applying for a visa, et cetera, to come in, I mean, we have a handful of family-based cases where the family is outside the country coming in, but otherwise we focus on immigrants who are here. All right. All right, I got to go, everybody. I've got to go. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate each of you. If this was useful, if this was helpful, please take a moment and subscribe to our channel in YouTube. All right. Sorry that I got to go in a rush. Duty calls. And hey, make it a great day. And we'll see you next time on our next episode of the Empowered Immigrant Live. Thanks a lot, everybody. Make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.